Hello, MNDers. Chris here to let you in on how to get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial from Audible. Because you're a listener of this podcast, all you have to do is go to audibletrial.com/MND podcast. Once you're there, you can choose from over 180,000 titles, including the latest additions to my library. So I have Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson, Vagabonding by Rolf Potts, and Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. So to download your free audiobook, go to audibletrial.com/MND podcast. If you do, you'll be glad you did. Now, cue the intro music. Four wives. Married, not dead. Look, we need to take this moment, the four of us, right now, and make a community service announcement very quickly. And here's the announcement. I love my wife. Matter of fact, I'll speak for all of us. We love our wives. For those that have hit me up, told me, reached out to me on Twitter, whatever way you've come to me with this messaging, no, we don't hate our wives. We're not really pissed off. This is a podcast. It is a show. We are entertaining a nation. Now I'm really full of myself. No, but you get the point. Yes, we love our wives. We're saying some things freely. It's not always literal. So there's my community service.
Hey man, speak for yourself, all right? You don't know the struggles that I be going through on this side. I told you I was vacuuming at 9:45.
Oh, dude, that reminds me. Part 2 of the community service announcement here. Check it out. We are not perfect. We may, in 5 years, find ourselves not in the situation we are in today. We are not prescribing that we have it all figured out and you don't. That's not what we're doing here. We are just as fallible. We have every bit of risk that anyone else has in their marriage and relationships. And we have very, very bad days and very, very good days, just like you. So I needed to lay that out.
Was that in question?
Yeah. It's been in question for about 2 months now, and I thought I would address it at some point, and it just finally hit me right now to address it and just make sure it's not that it needs addressing, it's that I just want to put it out there in case you forgot. If you've been listening to us from day one, so since January, you might get the sense that we think that we are the masters of our domain and we have it all figured out, and that our
wait a
wives
second.
are very subservient. No, that's not the case.
No. They could not have been listening if that was the case.
Not properly, yeah. Yeah, because honestly, you're that's probably a good service announcement. But I would like to say, so if you listen to me and you got that sense, fuck yourself. I'm not explaining shit. I don't have to tell you. Turn it off.
That's what I'm saying. Hopeless. Everybody has thrown something out there that says that to a good enough degree that. Yeah, like you said, Jay, thanks, Chris, putting it out there. But yeah, if you're listening, you know already. So
there it is. All right. So we got to talk about this hate shit. Can we talk about this hate shit for a minute?
Oh, man. Yeah, shit. Yeah.
We need to talk about this hate shit. It's getting under my skin a little bit because it's divided my mind a bit, too, because there's what I see on TV and then there's what I know historically. Like if you go to Richard Spencer, who runs the white supremacist or white nationalist party, if you go to this dude's Facebook page and you scroll all the way to the beginning of his timeline, he was repping for like a black political campaign in college. So this dude's a fucking phony. like him and David Duke are just making money. Like, look, we live in a country where if you're David Duke, you can ask for time on CNN, Fox News, any channel, anytime you want. So we provide as a country, MSNBC was the one I was going to say. We provide a place and a forum for an out and out racist to speak, because what's valued is the ratings that he's going to provide in the debate. So if this shit was real and it wasn't created to divide us and to keep us fighting, then a guy like David, like, we wouldn't let Stalin be on CNN, would we? Like, he wouldn't have just free reign. He wouldn't be able to go back to work on Monday. Like, these dudes walk around with impunity. And I don't understand it. It's really getting difficult for me to believe what I'm seeing. And then at the same time, a woman died. Like, that's very real. So is this fake shit turning into real shit because people are buying into the fake shit? I mean, how should we go about, see, the three of us live in the South, and Nick, you live, so Brian, Jason, me, we live in the South. Nick, you live in the DC area, which isn't any safer and might even be more racially charged in its own way. But it's just a little bit different. I think, Nick, where you're at, you're going to get the marches, you're going to get the political angle. Down here, at least for me, I have an interracial family. Nick, you have an interracial family. Jason and Brian, risk. I think when you're in the white club, you guys risk being out of the white club which I think you would be fine with, in the wrong group where you're speaking up. But I look at things down here where, okay, we have a statue of Nathan Bedford Forrest on I-65, but that's on private property. So the libertarian in me says, no, we can't take that statue down. But the humanitarian in me says, well, why not? Like, why would you cover this why would you have this statue of Nathan Bedford Forrest on a horse surrounded by flags?
And show this to everybody that goes down the interstate. Like, why does that get to falsely represent our town? But
right, why can't Trump, Jason? Why can't Trump build his wall right there?
Because there's no Mexicans to block.
Right. So no one can see it. We don't have to violate his property rights.
Depot, you got to go down to
Jason, should we be able to tear down a statue on private property? Should that happen or no?
No. I want to. Yeah. I mean, aside from the fact of all the racism and the horrible message it sends, it's atrocious. It's hideous. Much like the person who owns it, at least in their soul. I've never seen you, but I'm sure it's just as ugly as you are, sir. But
or ma'am.
Or ma'am. I heard it was a sir, so that's why I said that. But it could be a man, but
it is a man. It's a business owner here in town. Actually, he's a wealthy man.
Yeah, well, I assumed that he was. But side note,
that is like one of the ugliest fucking statues I've ever seen. It's terrible.
To my knowledge, that sucker is now, it's a plastic mold, right? It used to be stone until it was defaced, and they decided to make a mold out of it. So if ever it was defaced again, they could just put another one up there. That's what I heard. Not sure if that's true, but that's what I heard.
It gets defaced regularly, Nick, and it always comes back looking brand new. So I think that's probably true.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, probably is. But no, I mean, yeah, we have, so we can't legally remove it, not by force, not by law. But I mean, I think we should.
The question is should.
No, not should either. I don't think that's how it should work.
Okay,
I think
that's fair.
I think we as the people of Nashville might want to mean it enough. Oh shit, I don't want to say it. Fuck. So, yeah, I think maybe we have to put the pressure on him. Maybe we have to make him want to take it down.
Yeah. Or maybe, Brian, we put a bamboo wall right there so you just can't be like, is he made impotent by the fact, or is the statue made impotent by just blocking its view?
Yeah, so that would be my strike there, because what I will say, it's on private, so the libertarian kicks in with me, right? So it's not like the bus that are at the Capitol, which need to be taken out, right? Because by having them, where we make our laws and we make decisions that affect the entire population, it's there, it reflects. It's almost there as a symbol of justice, which is injustice, if you ask me. And it needs to be removed. And like our governor has said, it needs to be put in a museum. The stuff that, you never want to forget your past. Right.
That's what museums are for.
Yeah. And so, if somebody wants to have a personal museum on their property, it's distasteful. But, really, I think the main problem that Nashvillians have, and I know we're getting uber local here, but is when you drive down 65, it's right there. Like you see it every day. And I see it every day, every single day. And it just fuels that little bit of hate in the back of your mind as you pass it, because you're just like, oh, I fucking hate that. But if they would just
wrong for pride if you're on the other side.
Very true. Yeah. But it really would be great if they just put a little wall up right there. If they just extended a little sound barrier wall, and I'm sure that if they could even, I guarantee you that the city of Nashville could put it up for a vote, and that it would get funding, that people would pay taxes for it, and they would putting up this, it doesn't even have to be big. It's maybe a 15-foot wall to where you don't see it on the interstate, and then that could be something that you don't have to see every day. I mean, it's the person's right to put it on their lawn or on their property, but we have to. I think it's long overdue that somebody's brought it. Because actually I think it's been, there's like a petition I think going around to have it taken, but it really needs to be. How do we just obscure it to where no one can see it?
There's going to be more and more of those after what happened in Charlottesville. But I wonder, are there more people who would be for the wall than would be against it?
That would be for the wall that would be against it? Oh, yes. Oh, I mean, I don't know if you know much about. It sits in Davidson County, and the demographic and the makeup and the political leanings of Davidson County, Nashville, is Democrat. So just based on the political landscape, yes.
I wonder, because of the fact that we have the president that we have, and there are some states that you would have thought might not have voted certain ways, and yet that wasn't the case. And I'm just wondering if things like that bring people out that normally wouldn't vote, maybe normally wouldn't lean, in a public-facing way. It seems like now things like that might get them to come out and speak up. I'm just wondering if it, I think nowadays it seems like it's not as cut and dry. I mean, for me, it's just the fact that, where we are with the presidency shows me that it's not as cut and dry as we might have thought.
One of the most fortunate things about Tennessee is that its two largest cities both have high populations of minorities. So to Brian's point, Nashville, I believe, has elected Democratic mayors maybe for the last 20 years, including this mayor, Megan Barry. So I think she would get a lot of support for something like that. But to your point again, Nick, that's just one city. I went to a fair outside of the big city this weekend. And look, I get pissed off when I see this, because this is generational hate, generational racism. This is actually how racism happens. At the fair I went to, they were passing out stickers that had the Confederate flag on it and said, we support our Confederate statues. And they were giving them and putting them on the chest of kids. And these kids have no idea the depth of this conversation. It's like when you put a 5-year-old in Bible study, right? Like, you know what you're doing. You're getting them the word early while they are porous. And they'll soak that shit up. So you put a Confederate flag on a kid. And I saw these kids walking around with these Confederate flags on their chest. And they don't even realize, because believe it or not, there were quite a few minorities at this fair. They don't even realize that them being kids is the barrier between a fight and not a fight. And their parents are the ones doing it to them. And it reminded me of when I was a kid. I had a close friend named Robbie Sweeney. He passed away, and his father's name was Tommy. And actually, Tommy is passed away now too. And me and Robbie would hang out every single day together. We'd play football together. We'd just do everything, right? So we're walking down the street one day, and he turns to me with a solemn look, and in all seriousness, he turns to me and says, "Chris, one day there's going to be a race war." I said, "What are you talking about, man?" He goes, "There's going to be a race war, and I'm going to fight on the side of the whites. And I don't want to fight you. But if it comes down to me and you on that battlefield, I'm going to have to kill you." I said, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I said,
"What was he smoking, dude?
Have you seen No, dude, you got to understand, we're 12. We're 12 years old.
So I'm still asking the question.
So he's not smoking anything. and I'm like, "Have you seen my house? My mom and my dad, my mom is black. My dad is German, white. I'm not on that shit. Like, who's telling you about this race war?" And he said it was his dad. His dad was telling him about the race war and just feeding him this stuff. This stuff is not new. It has been going on since I was a child. And the sad thing about it is he fell in love with a black girl in high school, had me write the love letter for him when he was 14 years old. And the second his parents found out, I didn't see that dude for 5 days. And I saw him every day. So he got in trouble. And there was just consequences. And I think that when you teach your kid hate, and then your kid doesn't get that hate from people he's supposed to hate or she's supposed to hate, their world is turned upside fucking down. Like, they don't know what to think. Like, I love my dad and my mom. They're telling me to hate these people, but these people have only been kind to me my entire life. And I thought about those fair kids. These kids are going to go in to this fair, walk around with this Confederate flag on their chest on a sticker, and they're going to see a bunch of minorities treat them nicely, even though they have that damn sticker on their shirt. Because that's what happens down here in Tennessee, for at least. We don't fight you. Matter of fact, I saw 2 dudes with Confederate flag tank tops walk over and have a jovial conversation with a black woman. That's the kind of shit that happens down here. And it blows my mind on one hand. And on the other hand, it's proof that we are just all able to get along if we want to.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So my question is, from the kid standpoint, what do you guys tell your kids about this stuff? Is this a conversation that you have with them? Do they come to you? Do you go to them? I was talking to a coworker when they were airing some of this stuff on TV at the office. And, I was just kind of talking to him about it, assuming that he had seen this stuff and knew what was going on. This in Charlottesville, and also what was going on in Barcelona. And he had no clue. He basically said, I don't watch that stuff. It's just too much crap, too much bad stuff on the news, too much bias on the news, too much crap. He's like, I watch it for maybe the weather and the traffic. Besides that, I don't care for it. And I tend to agree. I don't like it either. But I know that I have to pay attention. So I asked him the pay attention question. I said, so, you know where you live. So he lives north of me, which is more in you say this, the demographic is more Caucasian than the mixed demographic that we have where I live, which is, my city is the most diverse city in the United States. So he lives north of me where there might be different sentiment. And I said, dude, you know where you live. So this is the, white guy. And he says, so you know where you live. I was like, so what do you do when someone who maybe feels the way that these Nazis or, white supremacists, maybe they're a sympathizer, maybe they feel the same way, and they approach your kid or another kid who feels that way approaches your kid, or you're there and a guy comes up to you and he's a sympathizer and he approaches you thinking that you are, if you're not paying attention to what's going on, how are you preparing yourself or your kids for this stuff? So again, so for me, for you guys, so do you initiate a conversation with your kids? I know that, Jay, your kids are, kind of, you'd say really young. I don't know if this is something that you'd want to broach with them, but what do you guys think? Do you bring it up to them? Do you not say anything at all? Do you wait for them to bring it up to you?
I've had two with my oldest. My youngest, I haven't said anything. I mean, I think it was last year that Logan, the 6-year-old, had drawn what he wanted to be when he grew up, and he drew himself as a police officer. And I'm guessing that the police officer that came to talk to them was African American, and so he said on real clearly what I want to grow up, and it was a black police officer.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that was great. For his safety and how police are treated nowadays, I really hope he's not a police officer, but thank God they're out there.
Right.
But for Jackson, the oldest, I've definitely had to have the conversation because it hit the other family is racist, and I think I mentioned before they've said racist things to me. To him in front of me, and I had to correct them, and so I feel like I have to almost overcompensate, because of it, just to make sure that when we have conversations, just to make sure that hey, that's not okay. Normal people don't think that way. Things like that. So I've had to have that conversation. Sure.
What's his response to you when you say that?
Oh, he's like, I know.
Brushes it. I know, Dad. I know. Yeah.
And that's. And I've never seen him act out of line or hatred, but he did come over because he ate there for a while. He was dressing not I think he was borrowing his stepfather's shirt and it had a rebel flag on him. I told him to take that shit off. You can't wear that here.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? I was like, do you understand what that means? He's like, no, I don't think. What?
Exactly, Brian. They don't know.
They're ignorant. They're ignorant to it. So, I had to teach them. He's like, oh. I was like, yeah, man. I was like, so that's like you walking in a Jewish synagogue with a Nazi.
The swastika.
Do the Nazi, swastika. Go in there and do the salute while they're reading the Torah. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
right,
You understand. I just don't understand. Just real quick, I don't understand racism. I just don't.
No,
I can't fathom. I just don't get it.
It's impossible. I
can't fucking fathom.
I just had this conversation with my wife.
I don't understand.
It's befuddling.
What makes... I just don't I just don't get it.
Less than. That's what it is, man. Less than.
Why?
Because,
I don't get it.
You take it as I just, because I had to think about this stuff a lot when I was a kid. My parents used to discuss this stuff with me based on the, different areas where we lived. It was, I went to school and it was, primarily white classes. So my parents were doing kind of that extra, right? Go the extra mile just in case I have to confront something, prepare me. But, so we'd had to do a lot of reading about this stuff, maybe watch movies about this stuff. And it just comes down to, in the very early days, black people were property, and there was this idea that they were, we were not human, so that is, I think Chris, you mentioned it earlier, this generational racism, right? It's passed down. You can do things with and to property that you would not do to or with another human being. Right. So if you want to justify some of this stuff in your brain, for one, it's easy to do that. This is a thing.
I mean,
this is an animal.
You can give that to people, 200 years ago. I know that you all had a conversation about the Civil War and this and that, but like you can do that maybe in a discussion where you think the way you've been educated and the fact that your entire economy relies on slavery as to why maybe you defend it or find yourself leaning towards that. But yeah, like just what Brian was saying, I had that conversation with my wife just, I don't know, 2 days ago. And I mean this, so I say this because I would never actually say it about a mentally handicapped person, but like when I hear somebody say something racist, whether it's on TV, usually it's on TV anymore, because I'm just not around these assholes anymore. I've put myself in a place, I think most of us have, that we don't necessarily have to be subject to it one-on-one, but just when I hear somebody say something racist, or they expel some hatred for a certain group based on their genealogy or their color, it, like, the first thought that comes, I just think, oh, are you retarded? You know what I mean? Like, there's no...
Yeah, no, this again, it's generational, man. So you pass it down to the next generation to feel the same way, property or less than.
I don't know if you can pass stupid. Maybe you can. Stupid.
No, it's the same thing as Chris was saying, where this is an indoctrination. This is an indoctrination from when the children are young.
Indoctrinated because you're a fucking idiot.
No. When they're kids, this is basically what they do. Again, It's like this Confederate flag on their shirt.
I'm going to say it. You're a fucking idiot if you've been indoctrinated to believe that somebody's lesser for you. Like my wife said to me, she's like, honestly, I don't understand. Why do people hate Jews? I can't.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I can't even respond to that. I have no rational idea why.
Yeah, go sit with them. They'll tell you why. But yeah, it's just...
When I would get done with it, I would say, you are a fucking idiot. You cannot, this is not... Yeah.
So I'll say that. That's where it comes from.
They get 8 Christmases, right?
right.
Not just one.
That's right. Those fuckers.
I mean, they get 8 days.
No. You said it right the first time. The Jews get 8 Christmases.
But you're right there on some of the teaching. Because and Chris, you're what you talked about with the generational thing. Sometimes it's much smaller than what you described. Mm-hmm. I was recently. There were some younger people looking at some other people on Facebook, and I was close to it, and I heard one of them. They came across. It was a guy. I don't know who it was. And the person said, "Oh, look at the nose on that one."
Oh, man.
And I went, and they turned around to me because they could feel me looking at them. And I said, you might not want to say that shit out loud.
The gaze of disdain.
Yeah. And they looked at me and they're like, oh.
The G-O-D.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you Jewish? And I was like, no. I'm not Jewish. What the fuck would that have to do with you simply seeing a picture of somebody and making a subtle pejorative comment about the size of their nose? That was obvious. It's like, but I knew when they said that, I was like, they have heard that's come from their parents. One of their parents has just made that. So it's this subtle, this underlying racism.
And just so you know that whole thing played out. Again, this is the stuff that I learned as a child and was likely faced with as I got older as well. But that racism also bled into African American culture itself. The whole idea of the dark skin versus the light skin black.
It's terrible.
That's something that continued a lot. I mean, in the 90s, it was heavy, man. I remember that it was, like Spike, like that was heavy. Spike Lee did a wonderful piece on it. And I think that it's something that, again, it permeated their culture. They would hate on each other, you know, and it gets back to our discussion about the N word, you know, and just thinking about that word. Imagine that, you know, you have a whole culture of people who, and, you know, I'm going to lean on to Jason's side on this one a little bit. But there's a number of people within a culture, put it that way, that believe that they own this word. Why do they think they own this word? They've been indoctrinated to believe that they are this word. Can you imagine? I mean, think about how sick that is.
Yeah.
You know, and that sickness is the same sickness we're talking about on the other side. You know, and it's like, again, you want to call them idiots, but at the same time, no, they don't know any better. You know, so they literally don't know any better. This is what was fed to them.
I don't want to know. I can't do it because
I know it's hard for you, man.
No,
but I'm just telling you.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying, and listen, and I don't mean to step up with a better than now thing, but that's kind of what I do, so I'm gonna. No, like at some point, you know, like I get it, you know, whatever misgivings I had about any group of people or whatever that in my life that I went through, you know, okay, you could give me a break because I was a teenager, you know, but when you slip into adulthood, I'm sorry, you're a lesser being. If you've been taught something that when you finally were released from your home, from your surroundings, and I know that a lot of people never really make it out of their surroundings, so that makes it tougher. But when you've been out in the world at all, and you don't realize that you have been indoctrinated, or that maybe, just maybe, you question it enough to go, God, were my parents, were my peers, were they wrong about this? You're a lesser mind. There's no way around it. You can make yourself feel better about it, but nope.
Yeah. So I would, on that one, I disagree with the lesser mind and just say that it's unfortunate. You know, it's unfortunate that they were, again, indoctrinated with these types of things. It's unfortunate with, you know, like we mentioned about the N-word, the folks who, you know, feel the need to use it or feel the need to own it. It's unfortunate for the people who think that, you know, their skin, their shade of color, not the color, but the shade might be better or worse than another. It's unfortunate.
You know, even the hair is like, you got good hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're dumb.
No,
can we
it's
not say that?
It's not. I won't say it. It's not. It's unfortunate. You hope that people have experiences that teach them otherwise. You hope that they have mentors or people that come into their lives that teach them otherwise. You hope that they have these epiphanies, these personal epiphanies, maybe that come from their own introspection on it. But that's not the case for everybody. If you were able to do that, Jay, that's awesome. You know, and that should be applauded. And maybe you can, serve as a mentor. Hey, maybe you should serve as a mentor to someone else.
But here's where I'll
working
jump
for everybody.
And agree a little bit with what Jason's saying, but in a less direct way. It's not necessary. I could say, look, you as an adult, if you have fallen prey to family pressure, if you have decided you were going to follow a set of ancient stories and books that tell you how you should behave and treat others, then you haven't done right by your own intellect. So I could say that because it goes even further, because I know Jewish people that are Orthodox Jewish people who could not marry outside of their religion or race for fear of extreme backlash from their family and their religion.
From their community.
And their community. Exactly. So to me, you've made a decision to follow a text that is, frankly, outdated.
Now, to be fair to that one, I'm not going to give him an out because you're totally right. But the benefits of the Jewish community can be astounding.
And that's what you're afraid of. It's like
life-altering.
It's like our money conversation that we had a few times, but last week as well. Do you want to be secure and unhappy are happy and insecure. Right. So if you were in that community and you fell in love with someone outside of your religion or race, but they made you happy, but in return, you were going to be insecure because you weren't going to have your community anymore, is love worth it? And these are some of the toughest decisions adults have to make every day. And going back to just that money piece, it's a good question to ask yourself. I was speaking with my father over the weekend, and he was talking about benefits. And I told him, I said, but he was talking about benefits being this great thing. And I said, they are a great thing, but a lot of my friends consider benefits a trap. He said, oh, they are that too. And we shared a laugh because he said, I wanted to go into a different career. He ended up, he was a media director for 30 straight years at Middle Tennessee Mental Health Institute. And it gave him an opportunity to be creative in a place where you wouldn't think you'd be able to do that with a psych degree, right? Mm-hmm. But he wanted to do more. He couldn't do that, he felt, because he had 3 kids and a wife, and he wanted to ensure their security above all else. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there can be regret because of it if you never set yourself up to make the move, or maybe you never create a shared goal with your spouse or significant other or partner to get yourself out of the trap. Jason, me and you have talked about this. Nick, me and you have talked about this. Brian, I don't think we've talked about it as much, but it's the benefits that keep you at the job you don't want.
Yeah, I'm there now, homie. It's like, this would be real. But I think it's not, it's the benefits, like you said, it's the security. But yeah, it's can you find the specific goals that you have and set a plan to achieve those goals within the current situation? Like I have a coworker who, said that, she could have this, she could have that, she could have the other thing, if she really wanted to. But, family and, kids, there's all stuff going on, and it's just kind of hard to do that now. And I'm like, I kind of looked at her and I was like, you could, if you, actually had a goal, like set a plan to do those things. Not everything is out of bounds. But it just seemed like there's a level of defeat, right, to it, like, and resignation. Like, this is just what it is. That's it. And part of me is, I just know that, like, for me, and actually one of my other coworkers, we're talking about this. We're just like, yeah, it's just in our blood to pursue these other things. Like, we know we're in a situation now, maybe in a job that, isn't as fulfilling as we would like. But, while we're there, we're going to do 100% kill it. But there have to be these other pursuits, because that's just who we are. It's not just things that we want, right? Or things that we would like to have. No, this is just who I am. I have to pursue these other things.
But how do you create a plan to do those other things full time, so those other things are your main thing, and then you can get into other things from there? So that basically so that you're climbing a ladder in your life where each year is better than the last.
Well, the first part is, I just think it's like when I was saying, it's my personality, is who I am. Like, I have a desire for these things. And I think that, like my coworker I was talking to, she's like, well, I could do this, I could do that. But there's no desire there. It's just, there's no drive to do those things. So it won't happen. Like, the person has the intelligence. Yeah, the person has the intelligence, which is why I think she said she could. She's intelligent enough to do these things. But yeah, there's no drive. So, basically,
sad for her. It might not be sad for us.
Yeah.
We might need her the job she's got. Let's be fine.
Right. So yeah, that's the deal. It's just, resign. And again, for me, I have a desire to do these other things. So I'm driving towards it. And again, back on that subject of having the shared goal with your family. Yeah, if you don't have that shared goal with not just your spouse, but likely with your children as well, to some degree, like an understanding, hey, daddy's got to work tonight, like, you guys are going to do something else. Daddy's going to do this. It makes it really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I think without that, you might end up being resigned because it would be too challenging, right? Like, would you risk the family for this goal that you have? That's a tough one.
Well, that's why I pushed back a little bit on what you and Jason just kind of agreed over there, which is sad for her, not sad for us. It'll be sad for us too, because if she doesn't like her job, she's not going to be engaged. She's not going to be good at it. So it's sad for everybody all around. You just don't want people doing things they don't want to do.
I think there's a lot of jobs that are necessary that can't be liked. Not really.
Yeah, maybe they say all the future work is creation.
I agree. I've worked him.
Yeah, I agree with Jay, but I also agree with Chris because in this situation, but I think it also comes down. It's not just not like it, but it's just that not the drive, right? I'm not 100% enamored, with what I do, but I will tell you that I'm good at what I do and I'm going to give 100% at what I do, even while trying to pursue something else. But to your point, Chris, yes, this other person isn't necessarily 100% in, but that's not just a dislike. That's just a resignation, all around. Like this is what this is for, right? Is to pay the bills, not I'm here to excel and pay the bills.
And honestly, if you don't have the drive to do that on your own, that it isn't sad. I mean, it's just who you were. Like,
right, that's what I said. Yep,
I had some ideas and things I'd like to do, but I didn't do them. Okay, well, that's not sad. That's not sad. You made that conscious choice.
Yep,
it didn't torture you. You left fulfilled, even if you didn't, totally get there, or it wasn't exactly what you wanted. If you're in a situation.
That's where I would argue. I'd argue they're not fulfilled. But what you just said begs the question, Jason, do we use benefits being a trap as an excuse? Is that just an excuse?
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If you're not, here's the thing. If you're not inspired inspired is the wrong word. If you're not internally relentlessly encouraged to strive for something else, like literally, physically, in motion, tangibly striving for something else, even if it's on a very small scale and it never goes anywhere. If you're not inspired to do that, you're not really in the wrong spot. You just have dreams. Dreams are good.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that.
Goals, yeah.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with that because, like I said earlier, it's the personality. Like me, I'd be torn apart by it, right? I'd be losing a part of my soul if I didn't have the opportunity to do something else, something creative. It's likely
that if you don't, then it is unfortunate.
Yeah, then it's very unfortunate, and it will likely be unfortunate for the people around me. But yeah, for that person, I would agree that for some, that resignation is less. Less sad, less impactful. It's just like, no, you know what? This is just where I am right now. And this will have to work.
And I think sometimes the truth is hidden so deep in a relationship that you don't discover it until it's too late sometimes. I have a friend who wasn't married, but is a musician and would get support from his girlfriend to do the music. But when it came down to him having to leave the state or be out all night or network to become very successful, there was pushback and fear. And it reminds me of what I've said in a few meetings around the movie business. Now, I tell people the movie business isn't sharky. Sharky's the wrong word. What it is people are self-interested. And sometimes your interest is diametrically opposed to their best interest. And the question is anybody willing to give up anything to get a better whole? Brian, when you were your first marriage, was there anything like that where, or was it were you sort of still trying to figure it out? I mean, have you ever experienced this where your interests and your partner's interests are diametrically opposed, but you don't find out until later? Or maybe it's too late?
Yeah, I mean, that's a weird relationship to kind of talk about. We just had a bunch of we didn't our shared goal between my first wife and me was my son, and to be honest, it continues to be a shared goal today. It's different, but it's still enacting. It's still going forward. We have a plan. We're still enacting that plan. But we had a lot of separate goals, and I think that we didn't have a lot of shared goals together as a couple. And I think that's kind of what we succeeded apart from each other.
I have a challenge. You go to your wife and you tell them that you're quitting your job. You've put in your 2-week notice. Just see what they say. It's an experiment.
Don't do that. Don't listen.
Be dead serious. Go to your wife and say you've put in your 2-week notice to do something else, that you don't have time to fuck around.
You just go to your wife and tell her you fucked your sister. I mean, come on. What are you doing to people? I'm just kidding, babe. I'm just kidding.
It would tell you.
Of course.
It would tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, I mean, I said that.
Lost your job or fucked your sister?
Right.
Oh yeah, which one?
Well, she's an only child. Okay. No, but I've done that. I've come home and just kind of played that up a little bit, and she was just like, she looked at me and she's like, "Yeah, okay, whatever. I know you're lying." Like, she wouldn't believe me because she has such a belief and faith in me, and she knows that, taking, because I think the way I said it is that I quit my job. Not that I was fired. I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. I couldn't take it anymore. I quit. I'm gonna take some time off. We're gonna have to rethink some things. And she just did. It didn't even phase her. It was not believable because of kind of.
Does that upset you though?
No, not at all.
That you're not even believable.
No.
I mean,
because she expects you to be so stable.
Yeah, I mean, that's who I am. That's how. So
it makes sense.
It would be.
Do you realize how hard it's going to be? Maybe then for you, like, it might be the hardest for you to actually make that move if you ever wanted to do it.
And I've been fired, and I tell you, I've been fired one time since I was since I had a child. And I came home, before I came home for the day to tell my wife, my first wife, that had happened, I had a job already. I didn't come home until I had a job.
For you, wow. That's good.
But is that the expectation? Jason, you were saying you equate that to just tell your wife you fucked your sister. Why is that why equate it to that? Like, is it really... Why would our wives react this way?
I'm saying, if you're testing something, just don't do it like that. But now, like, so here's the thing:
leave the seat up or something. Don't.
Right. Like if I came home and I said I got fired, my wife wouldn't question it for a second. She'd be like, yeah, "What the fuck did you do? What did you do? What did you say? What did you say to me, boss?" Like, you know what I mean?
But don't miss the point of the experiment, Jay. The point is you have to tell her, I'm quitting the job to go do
X. I know what you're getting at.
And then X is something...
I'm not sure it's a good experiment.
X is something your wife knows you love, but isn't sure you can make money at.
Right. And look, it's a good...
It's a wild time.
Kind of it is. But, well, you know what? Maybe that's not a bad idea, because what that can do is something that, honestly, what is that they do in churches? They testify.
Amongst other things.
What is it? Hello, somebody. What is it?
Hello, somebody.
Hello, somebody. Hello, brother. So when we started this month, of shared goals, I don't know. I was kind of out in left field a little bit. Like, I understood it, but I didn't. I didn't have it personal expertise to speak from. And it's amazing what can happen just when you start to focus, just when you just narrow in and say, when that becomes a thought, a cognizant, possibility in your brain, of shared goals, and what you do or do not have, or what you have or have not achieved, because you don't literally have shared goals. And I'm a free spirit. My wife's a free spirit. We don't, we're not planners. It's not like we've talked about this. I hate spreadsheets. I hate, the Outlook calendar, and I hate planning it out, because it's boring and it's mundane, it's predictable. But I think maybe what I missed, in all of these years, which there have been a few, is that some of it's absolutely necessary. I was just moving my in-laws this last weekend, and we got it together, and we're trying to, help them out with the move and kind of planning beyond that. And, I realized there wasn't a plan, and it was very, very difficult. Every step has been very fucking difficult, taxing, tiring, exhausting. I actually worry about the health of my father-in-law to be able to get through it. My wife worries about that because it's it is so hard in the middle of it, of trying to even loading the pod, the trailer that they're moving,
right? Like
there wasn't a plan, and that's really when I start to get upset, when I think this isn't being handled correctly. And in all of that, where I normally explode, I just said, it's not going correctly because there isn't a fucking plan, because nobody stopped and said, what is our goal? What are we trying to achieve? And it's honestly, this month has been kind of profound for me, because whether it's talking to your kids about the inevitability of profoundly ignorant lesser minds who are racist and full of bigotry, that they're going to have to deal with, that will confuse them momentarily, or just achieving something and actually, I don't want to say winning, but winning with your wife, your spouse. It's what it all comes down to is communication. And if you aren't sitting down on a regular basis, on a regular uncomfortable, this isn't necessary, can't we just watch TV? Can't we just fuck? Can't we just get the kids to bed and just relax kind of thing? No. It has to be a regular, ongoing conversation of reminding each other what we want, what we're going for. It's necessary.
Nick, should I say is or should it be your wife's job to take a little bit of air out of your balloon, just to keep you on the ground a little bit so that the family can thrive? Has that always been the wife's role, generation to generation?
Well, I don't know about that one. You said take air out of the balloon. I think, maybe you keep that string attached a little bit, right? It's like the tether to reality. I don't know that my wife is the one who has that or needs to have that. I think that the responsibilities from day to day are enough to provide that tether for me. I know that I need to provide today, even though I have goals and dreams of what tomorrow looks like. So I think that's the same kind of principle that Brian has, when he can go to his wife and say, I quit. She's like, no, no, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Or he got fired and had a job before his ass came home.
Right. Because there's stuff you gotta do today for the people that, that you're responsible for. the people that depend on you, right? So again, I don't think my wife or any wife or any spouse's role is to necessarily do that unless there's something that's getting out of hand, right? So I think it's not a wife thing, it's a spouse thing. If either spouse is pursuing some goal or dream and is potentially putting the family at risk, and the risk is too great, or perceived to be too great, or is being irresponsible, then yeah, I think as a spouse, which I think we talked about it before, is a partner, so if you have this partner in your life, and yeah, your partner should be making sure that you're not doing those things that would put the partnership or the family at risk. So yeah, not a wife thing, but a spouse thing or a partner thing.
So Chris, are you really asking, do you and your wife have goals that are crushing your own personal goals?
Right. So the real heart of the question is I think we might use benefits, like the need to have health care for our children and for our wives and for ourselves, as the reason we're staying at a job. You might love your job. If you don't like your job, or you feel like you're supposed to be doing something else, what's the reason why you stayed at that job for 5 years, 10 years? A lot of people, and this goes back to my conversation with my father, a lot of people will point directly at, the healthcare benefits. That's why I stayed, because I have a responsibility to take care of my family. All that's true. Of course, you can get healthcare on the open market. So to Jason's point, yeah, maybe that's an excuse. And the real thing is, either you don't believe, you have some self-defeating talk where you actually don't believe in the thing you want to do. You like to say it so that you don't put yourself in a box at dinner parties, but you yourself, deep down inside, have some self-defeating narrative that tells you, I can't accomplish this. And so you don't even really bring that up to your wife to create a goal about how to get it, right? And so because of that, when you go tell your wife you're doing this, her job might just be to shut you down because she doesn't believe it either. And she's not going to let you do it.
Yeah, it's a level of risk you're willing to accommodate. That's what I look at it as. I mean, whether it's the benefits for the kids or, some of those quote unquote benefits. So you have medical benefits, right? Some of them could be, just your work schedule, the work hours, and finding a job within your occupation with a certain type of work hour might be difficult elsewhere, So it's not just that it's defeating, but maybe that, you also have other priorities and you got to balance those. So the kids, spending time with your kids after work or picking them up from school might be a priority for you. So switching into another career or another job or another whatever could put that at risk. So all of those things have to be weighed. And yeah, so I think it's a mixed bag. Some of the people are, they're resigned and you know what, I can't do anything else because of this. Other people will say, you know what, I'm going to do this for as long as I have to while I'm pursuing something else. Other people are like, you know what, screw this. I'm on to something else because I'm not fulfilled by this. And whatever risks that I'm taking on, you know what, it'll all work itself out.
It might be important just to let your spouse know what your primary doubt is too. Like, Brian, what would you say is your number one self-defeating self-talk, internal monologue that tells you can't do something? If you had to pull out anything.
I don't tell myself I can't do anything.
I like it.
I mean, the time, the things that hold me back, are, I've proven that I can do anything in my life as long as I give it time and attention. Mm-hmm. So, I would say that what keeps me from doing some things that I want to do is the others that aren't as patient as I am. Mm-hmm. To see things that I'm eventually going to do. Like for me and my wife particularly, we have goals and what we want to do. And me, I'm like, okay, well, we do it. It's going to take 5 years to get there. No.
That's frustrating, right?
Yeah. No, I went in 5 months. Oh, well, that means all these other things can't get done. So that's probably, that's a constant struggle that we have when we're trying to, look at our goals and how they align. So I think that I can accomplish anything. I had car trouble yesterday, and looked at it, figured it out, and did it myself. And then instead of like taking it to a dealership and getting it fixed. So
getting raped by the dealership as well, financially speaking.
Dude, yeah, I'll probably say I paid $4 to change the connector on my battery. That's probably $150 to a $200 job.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Kudos. So like I don't feel like asking me that question, I might be the wrong person because I'm overly confident in any time anyone ever asks me how to do something or gives me a task at work to do, I'm like, well, I don't know. Let me look at it. It's pretty much always, and I usually come up with an answer or I've find someone that does, so I don't know.
And it may not be a thing that you tell yourself you can't do. Your self-defeating talk might be something really abstract or nuanced. So I'll probably circle back to you. Jason, what do you think? What is you think your number one self-defeating narrative, if there is one at all?
Yeah, of course there's narrowing it down might be difficult, which is kind of ironic because I do have the same thought process that BC has there's nothing I can't do. And I do believe that. I was a handyman for like 3 years. I had no experience doing this. Somebody just said, hey, do you think you can remodel a salon? And I needed a job. So I was like, yeah, I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
I got some tools.
That.
Yeah. And it turned into it was like a real job for a while.
Yeah.
Went from there to, did something else, but paid the bills for a while. But
I remember us having a very passionate discussion or argument outside of that salon. And was your side of it based on a narrative, a self-defeating narrative, if you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what that link is between the regular and the bold, but it's the bold that scares me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the bold that it's the unique. Like I never back down and say I can't do this when it's normal, and I never will back down and saying I can't do this when it's abnormal or atypical. But I will back down in the fact that I think that others will buy it without a level of established expertise, which I don't have. So maybe all the things that I want to do, I haven't established the time or I've been taught, I've learned, and I'm ready kind of thing as to just hopping in. It's hard to, even with my wife, like some of the things that I don't have any doubt that I would excel at are hard to get to because there's no proof of it. I can't.
Does she know that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I mean, there's no proof of it in the sense that I haven't done it before. Why would I be successful at it right now? It's a rare thing to be successful at this thing. So your lack of experience should denote failure.
Right.
And I don't know whether that's real or not, but that's what I subject to myself.
Oh, mine's fucking real. Mine gives me anxiety. Mine is, I'm not good enough. That's my self-defeating talk. My self-defeating talk is, Chris, you are not good enough to do the thing you want to do. It's reserved for really, really special people, and you're just a little special. You're not, right, but you're not big time special.
Aren't you just saying, like when we do that, aren't we just saying that we honor what we want to do or hold in such high regard what we wish to do that that we're scared that we're not enough. I mean, like I think it's a bonus, but it's a attribute, but you got to get a hold of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things that drives you, but it also gives you an excuse. It terrifies you. It keeps you in the bed, especially on those moments where you think you've done your very best and it wasn't close.
Uh-huh.
It's crazy. So Nick, what about you? Got anything?
No, it's kind of hard. So I wouldn't, in that same camp. Yeah, I can do anything. I think for me, it's not as much self-defeating because it's just a matter of fighting between or amongst priorities. All right. So it's like that night that I take to do some work. Well, that's a night that I'm taking away from my kids who want to play with me. Mm-hmm. You know, that trip that I have to take, for a couple of days out of town, that's when I, have to leave the wife here with the kids for a couple of days and she's going to be rolling solo with the little people, so it's things like that where it's just more like I know I can do it, but if I spend those 2 hours, I mean, even it could be something that I lose, right? So it could be like, if I spend those additional 2 hours, well, that's going to have me to sleep at 2:00 in the morning. My kids are going to be up, at least one of them, no doubt, by 6:00 in my bed, waking me up. It's 4 hours of sleep. Mm-hmm. How well is the rest of the day going to go? How well is the rest of the week going to go if I'm now denying myself the sleep that I need to go to the day job or hang out with my family or, be dad or be husband or be homeowner?
Okay. I've got it summed up for you. Your narrative is you're terrified not to be a good husband and dad.
Well, no, it's not terrified that I'm not going to be. It's just because that's a value to me as well, right? I'm stealing stuff from myself, not just from them, but I'm stealing the time that I would want to have spent playing with Legos with my son.
Right.
But
I'm saying that narrative will keep you from working potentially some days because you don't want to sacrifice that Lego time.
Keeps me from working all the time.
Right. But what I'm saying is that it's not self-defeating, right? Because if I were to give up that time to play with Legos, I still get that time, right? I still own that time. So that's why it's kind of hard to answer the question. I'm not self-defeating, but it might be slowing down the drive to the goal, to that specific goal.
Torn between your goals.
Right. But that emotion that's at the center of that, Jason, is I need to be a good dad because that's something I want to be. Or I need to be a good husband because that's something I want to be.
Yeah. That's what
I'm saying some people don't have that. Some people don't have that. So they're not kept from their... They don't have a narrative or
that's totally correct. And I think those people are on a regular basis more successful.
Yes. I believe so as well.
I don't have a way. I don't have a way, nor do I have a desire to do that, nor do I think that perhaps it leaves us with a better world.
Yeah, and I talked to my wife. Yeah, I talked to my wife about that.
To me for that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think he meant financially successful, right? I think that for me, I've definitely talked to my wife about that too. It's just that's that struggle. It slows things down. Like the more priorities you add to the table, the slower everything goes. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is for me. So yeah, it's not self-defeating, but it is the trying to balance all of the priorities and remembering that my health is one of those priorities, getting enough sleep, maybe exercising, whatever. It's balancing all of those things that slows down the progress on some of the goals.
It reminds me of the Stephen Covey analogy with big rocks and little rocks, where you're trying to put big rocks and little rocks into a jar. And if you start with the little rocks first or the low priorities, you'll never get the big rocks in the jar. But if you start with the big rocks, then the little rocks fall all around the big rocks and you can get all the rocks into the jar. To watch it visually is actually pretty profound. To hear about it, a little bit less so, admittedly. So
Wait, especially if the big rock is blocking the opening and you can't get the little rocks in the tank.
If you've got that big of a priority, you can take a hammer and smash that fucker in half.
Right.
You figure out a way to compartmentalize that priority.
That's right. They gave you that sneaky ass magician's trick. You know, it's like, look at the rocks and how they go through. Now they position those rocks, man. It don't work like that in the real world.
Yeah. So well, I mean, but you take the point, right? The big rocks are the big priorities. The little rocks are all the little things that are floating around, and the little rocks are obviously easier to do and easier to pick up and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
I get the point.
So Jason summed up what we've done over the month very eloquently. I enjoyed that. I thought I would kick it to Brian first and see, Brian, did you have any lessons, anything you learned that was unexpected through our shared goals month?
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of funny because I've got all three of the goals that we kind of talked about, activities, budget, and health. They're all butting heads right now because I've got kids' activities that are, we've got baseball going on, we've got Cub Scouts going on, we've got band going on, and now we have the littlest one starting soccer. All that's going on. Now, those are 1 to 2 nights a week, each one of them practicing plus games, sometimes 1 to 2 times a week. And that's all additional financial, adding to the budget, fees for each one, which were kind of an oversight. And then with all those nights of the week that you're doing those things, and because, school's back in and you're doing work and stuff like that, when are you going to get your workout in? So like we are going through this issue right now of trying to juggle time in order to be able to continue to maintain all the goals that we wanted to do. And like what's going to win, because not everything's going to win right now.
That's the truth there.
That's where
what's going to win.
What's going to win. That's where we are right now. And it's kind of
Wait, I got a question. Don't you kind of know, like, there's a part of you that already knows what's going to win? You see? Yeah. Yeah, you know it.
Very good point, Nick.
But it was crazy. You ask yourself that question, like, what's going to win? What can give? Why do we play this game? Like, why do we do this dance when we know what the answer is?
Right.
Win.
It's daunting right now, to be honest. But, that's part of it.
Nick, did anything jump out to you this month?
No, I think it just reinforced something that Jason had mentioned earlier when he was talking about it, which is focus. And because I think that's what I am looking to get out of our conversations. I think we've talked about that before, is that I think with all of these shifts in priorities and me, my adding things to my list, I need to make sure that I maintain a focus. I think sometimes it's easier to keep the focus on the kids. I think there's just, their inherent, I'm not going to just call it neediness, but their inherent attachment, to me is just, it's easy to spend time with the kids, right? When they want something, it's you can respond really quickly. It's usually something very simple. It's just they want to play, they want to throw a ball, or they just want to sit on your lap or something very simple. But as I add these other priorities to my plate, I think that it'll be very easy to lose sight of my wife in all this, because she's very reasonable, I guess you could say, with respect to the time and space that I need to pursue my goals. So she will never, come across as pushy, or try to, take my time away from doing something I'm doing, even if to some degree I'm neglecting her, so I feel as though that she would, again, if I were neglecting her, she would sit back a little bit and wouldn't make it obvious or known until some of the damage was done. So the way I look at it is like, I know that my time is thinning. So I need to find as many ways as possible to make the time that we have very valuable, and focusing on things like shared goals. And they could be very small. Whatever those things are, if we have them and we know that we're working to them in that thin time, then that thin time is quality time.
Right.
So that to me, that's just these conversations just reinforce that. And then another point that Jason made was it all comes down to communication, right? So if we're always in communication about what it is I'm doing when I'm doing things on my own, the things that we'll be doing together, that planning thing is a huge thing. Mm-hmm. And I know it because it's like, it lets your wife know that you're serious about it. Like you're actually thinking about it. Like just the idea that you're thinking about doing something with your wife, that excites her. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
love that Jason mentioned that.
Yeah, it's huge, and that's where that calendar comes in. You know, it seems like it's a tedious or mundane thing, but like you do that just shows them, hey, like, you know what? With all the stuff that he has going on, he put the thought into it.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, we got a shared calendar now. Like yeah. So that's it for me. It just reinforces those two things that Jason's already mentioned, which is focus. That's focus on my wife. And then 2 is communication, making sure that we're on the same page and that I am showing her that I am doing things for her, not just for myself in these pursuits that I have.
Yeah. I took away health. I took away a new way to get a truly sweaty workout in 20 minutes through incline treadmilling. So I think this was one of those off the air conversations we had, but here's the deal. 20 minutes, I kicked the treadmill up. So my screen, I'm an idiot. And when I moved my treadmill in, I broke my screen. I can't see shit. So when I turn it on, I don't have so I do everything by clicks. I'm almost like a blind person using Braille.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, how fast? Somebody asked me how fast I was going. I don't know. I was going 25 clicks. What was your incline? 15 beeps. So so I go 15 beeps on the incline, Nick, and I go 25 clicks on the speed, and I do that for 20 minutes, and it's like you worked out for 2 hours.
Yeah, man, that incline is no joke.
It is
and the
no
sweat is
joke.
Awesome.
It is no joke. So I appreciate that.
Wait, let me give you some on that. So I think my treadmill is trying to kill me because, like I just mentioned, that 5 is no joke, right? And then depending on the speed you're going at, but man, so I do like a 6 as a warm up, and then I move into 6.5, 7 miles per hour, and I'll be sitting on that 6 or that 6.5, and my treadmill is speeding up. Like the screen doesn't change, but it's speeding me up at least a half a mile an hour. So I'm thinking I'm steady, right? I'm steady at 6.5.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I'm at 7. And I'm like, this thing is trying to kill me, man.
Are you sure it's not like that thing where, you know, like I get my pants out of the wash and it's like, oh, the dryer shrunk my shirt, you know, and it's like, no, you're getting fatter,
dude,
asshole.
It's mid-stride,
sure
dude.
It's mid-stride.
Like
maybe it's not speeding up. Your old ass is slowing down.
It's mid-stride, I'm telling you, and it's freaking me out. So it happens sporadically. So I had to check it out just to make sure I was right. So I told you the screen is still on the same speed, right? Mm-hmm. So just to make sure I wasn't losing my mind, I was clocking the time, right? Because if you're going faster, you'll be able to do that time shorter. Yeah, man, that time was shorter, dude. I was like, this treadmill is trying to kill me.
Ghosting the treadmill, that's creepy.
That's right. But yeah, man. It gives a good workout.
That's funny. Like that's like a movie. Like you have a ghost that wants you to be more fit. Like you have a ghost in your treadmill that's like down to get you abs.
I got a ghost trainer.
It's so stupid. It's a Brian.
What's crazy is
what you got?
I don't even mess with it.
And maybe if you know what the answer is up front, I mean, it's even better because then you can continue that conversation, that communication, and really prepare for it. Like, look, we know it's going to win, but let's talk this through and balance it out because everything is so unfucking believably fundamentally linked to that continual annoying non-mundane conversation that for some reason even the most adept of speaking to each other, like we hesitate in that. I don't know why, but like we do it in all areas. And I know we speak in these broad, you know, we've covered health and children and this, but like just the smallest of details from you know, what we want to do with our day, what we want to do with our week, or what we want to start consuming in our everyday meals to what we like when we have sex. Mm-hmm. Like these things we don't talk about. I don't know why. I mean, I guess because it's not normative behavior. I honestly, I don't know how that became a part. Like how we don't regularly discuss this thing. And most people, when you broach this with them, if you listen to this and take that step to say, I'm going to talk about all these things, you will be met with discomfort. You will be met with unease that you have to keep pushing through. And you have to make sense of it and say, well, I know that my spouse is uncomfortable and this isn't necessarily what they would do, but you have to do it. You absolutely have to do it unless you want to be unhappy or unwed, because one of those two things will happen inevitably. And if, like we said, if you're in the ballpark of who wins, what wins, the kids win, then you can't be either of those things. It's not going to work for them. So from that focus alone, whether it's them or you or your personal moments, a million different things, if you aren't literally talking about it, shut off the fucking television. Have that conversation. It's going to be enjoyable. You're actually going to like that better than finishing the Ozark, which is brilliant.
Told you.
Brilliant, or the next Stranger Things. You know, like it's fantastic. Make time for it. But I'm just saying,
Jason Bateman's the anti-hero we need right now.
We do. But make it minimal. You know what I mean? Like make that time between. My wife and I made that mistake. Like we really started enjoying that TV time too much. We needed to turn it off. We needed to say, hey, let's just have some drinks and sit here and talk and do nothing else about real shit. Not about how we feel about Donald Trump. Not about how we feel about the environment or school lunches or, a nut-free environment where we can't take peanut butter anymore.
I can't have a nut-free environment in my household.
Well done. But talk, you know what I mean?
That's what she said.
Exactly.
If you talk, you'll get to the shared goals.
I agree completely. And the timing on that is so perfect because next month, September, we are dropping a new topic on you, and we'll be balancing marriage and fatherhood. So we're going to be talking about how do you balance the responsibilities as a husband and father, a little bit of what Jason just said, a little bit of what Nick and Brian just said about which one do you pick, your health, your money, or your kids? How do you balance it? We're going to talk about the strategies, talk about our experiences. I'm looking forward to it quite a bit, boys.
Me too, and it's 11/11, so couldn't be better.
creepy shit. Does anybody got anything else before I wrap us up?
Do not.
I'm satisfied. See,
funny.
All we have to do is communicate.
Yeah, I was waiting for him to say something after do not. Like, do not do something in particular.
He tricked us on that shit with tone.
Yeah, man. He had me holding on. Do not.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. We'll play.
All right. So for everybody out there, you've been listening to the Married Not Dead podcast. To find show notes, read awesome blog posts, to find links to all the products or services we talked about in this show, please visit our blog at marriednotdead.org. If you haven't already, you can join our podcast tribe on the Apple Podcast app or any podcast app of your choice. We are now all over the internet. Absolutely. You can find us and follow us on Twitter, Instagram at _Married Not Dead, and on Facebook by searching for the Married Not Dead page. We're that kind of group that's going to respond to your comments. So please comment on Facebook. So
if you want us, we'll be there.
You can also find us on SoundCloud, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, where you listen. We are there. If you can't find us, please reach out. We will put it there.
No, if you can't find us,
like
you ain't looking.
Lawnmower, man.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
If you can't find us, you're looking. Yes. We're all over the internet. So, until next time, on behalf of Nicholas Buggs, Brian Comer, Jason McConnell, I'm Chris Barkley. We're going to see you next week. Peace. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/MND podcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from, including one of my personal favorites, How to Get Filthy Rich in Rising Asia by Mohsen Hamid. Do not judge this book by its title. The ending had me crying in the middle of a 4-hour flight to Los Angeles. It's made even better by Mohsen's narration, and you can download How to Get Filthy Rich in Rising Asia or any other audiobook of your choice today. Again, for listeners of the Married Not Dead podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So, to download your free audiobook, go to audibletrial.com/MND podcast. Again, that's audibletrial.com/MND podcast to get your free audiobook today. You will not regret it.